Hey everybody, welcome to my usual me and welcome to what I believe will be the very last Chronicles of Elyria update video you'll ever see on my channel. Because as of the 25th of March, Caspian, the owner of Soulbound Studios, has halted production on the game. Now, it's taken me several days to make this video and several tries to make this video because I'm very passionate about this game. I was very hopeful and I was looking forward to it for years and years, as many of you were as well. On the 25th of March, Caspian wrote a letter and posted it on the forums, and we're going to go through it, not completely because it's really long and it's filled with a lot of nonsense that I'll let you read if you'd like. I will link that down below in the description. You can read the entire thing. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. If I do, I will get too passionate about it and I will say things that will be inappropriate. However, I will say one thing from my heart, and my opinions are my own, and this is my opinion because I know, Caspian, you're watching this video because you watch anything that's Chronicles of Elyria right now. Caspian, you're a coward for not giving us a video telling us that you're closing down the studio. You put a breakup letter on my pillow instead of talking to me eye to eye, screen to screen, and telling me like a man that you were breaking up with me and at least 10,000 other people. You couldn't be a man and own up to it on camera. Maybe you will one day. Maybe me saying this will shame you into getting on the camera. I hope so. I really do, because we deserve it. It's the least you can do. Actually, it's not the least you can do, but we'll get into that. Also, I want to tell my community and everyone else watching this video, do not want anyone to in any way harass or threaten anyone from Soulbound Studios. If you do, I will disavow you. I am telling you right now, do not do it. We are better than that, and we do not do that. Now, I hope I've made myself clear and I can continue. All right, we'll read the first paragraph and then I'll skip down and I'll go through the parts that I feel are pertinent. It says, once again, it's time to update the community on the current state of Elyria. As you'll read by the end, the period since the last state of Elyria has been one filled with huge successes, public failures, a sense of achievement, a feeling of loss, and hope for the future. Overall, this is a bittersweet state of Elyria, but let's jump in and take a look at what the studio achieved in the last year. And then the next several sections go through what they have done or claim they have done, what they claim that they have failed at, and how difficult it was to get to that point. Also, the mistakes that were made. Okay, I'm not going to go into this, just simply because 3 of their videos were posted, all of which are, of course, we've seen these before. These are the pre-Elyria Vox low poly tests. This is actually the Alpha 1, the quote-unquote Alpha 1 that only the highest tier individuals were able to play. Anywhere from $10,000 investment all the way down to, I believe, $350 investment. The Alpha 1 people, this is what they slapped together. And I say slapped together because I believe that's what they did, to allow their highest paying investors something to play before they close the doors. Because if you have someone who paid $10,000 to be a king on a whim for a game, you know they have deep enough pockets that they have a lawyer on retainer. Now we signed a terms and conditions whenever we gave them our money, right? It's in development. It may not ever go any further. That is one of the things that it says. Okay, so legally we may not be able to get our money back, but a lawyer might hold and have a case to open the books. And that's what I'm calling for. I'm calling for, and I should have said that to the end, but I'm not going to. I'm calling for one of you rich mother humpers that spent thousands of dollars on this game to spend a couple extra thousand and get a lawyer to get them to open the books up. I want to see the numbers. I want to see where our $9 million went in the last 4 years, because it doesn't add up. I mean, no matter how you slice it, it doesn't add up. And I'll talk about that in a second. So let's get back to, I believe this is slapped together. I really do, now that I'm looking at it. The frames, guys, are between, at the best, 60, and at the worst, like 45. Even unoptimized on my old computer, I would be getting frames like this. They should have much better computers than what I used to have 2 years ago. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about that, except looking at it more closely, it feels slapped together. you know? I mean, you got 4 years to develop something. Of course, this is gonna come out. You know, if you want parkour mechanics, this is gonna come out. I mean, that's, you know, you have enough time to do that, but we should have seen much, much more than this. Anyway, so I'm gonna stop there, and we're gonna continue on. So in the next section, they talk about the domain and settlement selection, which has been the website crashed, and it took them 3 months to get it back up and going. I made a video on that and got egg on my face because it crashed. Not my fault, but it did happen. And so they weren't able to get their influx of cash that they needed to continue on, they say. And then they have the core and online experiences. They talk about, it says around November of last year, it occurred to us that we'd been emphasizing on the wrong things. And what they mean by that, and when he goes on to discuss this or talk about this, is that the people who paid the most, the gentry, aristocracy, and nobility, didn't feel like they were being represented, and the things that they cared about weren't being shown because they hadn't been implemented yet. So they created another team to actually work on Alpha 2 stuff as well, which they should have been doing all along, but they hadn't been. They waited until the fall of last year to get it to even begin. So they slapped up this like I said, they slapped up this obstacle course, and to give them something to play before they close the doors. Hopefully to placate them. I hope it doesn't. I hope that somebody out there that's got deeper pockets than me actually does something about this, but we'll see. Anyway, so they talk about breaking the team into 2 teams, and they said it was a solid plan. Unfortunately, issues with the website, problems with third-party partners blocked the release of Settlers of Elyria. Third-party partners blocked the release of Settlers of Elyria until March. They said that the website went down. I don't remember reading anything about third-party partners blocking the release of Settlers of Elyria. I don't know what that is. And maybe someone can tell me in the comment section. I'm not sure. I'd like to know. But anyway, they said fortunately the core team was on point and was able to deliver that limited piece of whatever it was to the Alpha 1 people. So, and he goes, but unfortunately, the delay of the Settlers of Elyria and the outbreak and the infernal need to crowdfund led us down a dark path into the abyss. Now, this is where he talks about, this is the juicy part. This is where Caspian speaks about how he's a bad manager, in my opinion. That was my takeaway. Maybe that's not what he's saying, but that was my takeaway, was that Caspian was a bad manager and a very prideful manager at that, and he couldn't get past his pride. And I'll show you why. Right now, where is it? For the last 4 years, since May of 2016, Soulbound Studios had been a crowd-funded company. Our first game, Chronicles of Elyria, had been funded thus far almost entirely through the pledges and generosity of our backers. But that was never our intent. When we launched our Kickstarter back in 2016, it was with a plan to use the money to hire additional staff, put together a playable demo, and quickly attract publishers who would be willing to fund the remainder of the development. That doesn't surprise me. Actually, that smells like a solid business model. It really does. You get the beginning money from the Kickstarter, and then you continue on from there. It's not surprising. They do it all the time. He said, we were fortunate enough or unfortunate as it turned out to attract publishers very early on in our development process. We had publishers from all over the world flying in to meet the team and see our development process or progress, to get hands-on with the game. However, they started saying, either work faster, show us more, or we'll want to take over development and make some changes to the business model. That's not unheard of, and that's not unfair, right? If I give you millions of dollars of my own money, I want to have some say in what's going on. And if I have better people that can work faster, I want them to do the work. But Caspian said this was unacceptable to us. He said to us, I don't know how much Vi had say in what went on. I have a feeling that Vi had quite a bit to say about what was going on, but Caspian had final say, I think. This is my thought. I don't have any basis of fact with this. Simply my opinion. But I believe that's how it smelled to me as I watched them over the years. That Caspian was so, and matter of fact, there's a post, and I can't remember where it is, and I'm not going to use the developer's name, but you guys who've read the forums for all these years know the developer I'm talking about that said, we're going to do it. I wanted to do it this way, but it kept getting bounced back to me because it was unacceptable to Caspian. And so Caspian would literally, now you're going to say high quality, only the highest quality is acceptable to him, and that's what he was striving for, and that's fine. But it seems that there's so much pride in that man, and I'm talking to you, Caspian, I'm talking to you, that there's a lot that was unacceptable to you. You were not willing to compromise with anyone, and you were the thing that broke the game. Okay? You broke our game. I blame you. Once again, I don't want to hear of anyone saying anything threatening toward anyone with Soulbound Studios. Ever. One by one, the conversations with the publishers fell silent. Of course they did. Of course they did. Because people with money, if I'm going to give you money, I want to say. So, fortunately, we were able to continue crowdfunding for a couple of years, milking our fan base, at which point we felt, I added that part, it's not in here, at which point we felt like we were finally ready to start talking with investors. The problem was 2 years into development, and 2 years being crowdfunded, our inability to get a large influx of several million in cash meant development was going slower than we would have liked. Our inability to get a large influx of several million in cash. You gave you $9 million. I mean, you should have been able to put together something. This is 2 years being crowdfunded. Okay, so you're talking about 2 years in development. Okay, so that was 2 years. All right, so I think that was at what, 6 million at that point? Maybe it was at 6 million. I could be wrong, but I think that was the number around there. When I bought my package, even at, let's go ahead and do the math right quick. Even at, let's say that Soulbound Studios had 20 people working on the game at that point, and they didn't, not even close. But if they had 20 people working on the game at that point, and they paid them $50,000 a year, and for 2 years, that's $2 million. It's $1 million a year for 20 people to work for $50,000 a year. And so that's $2 million. And if they pulled in 6, let's go ahead and we're going to double that 2 million. And so we're going to use the next 2 million for development. So let's say it took them $2 million to develop pretty much nothing except lore, right? And I think that all the lore came from Vi and Caspian and Snipe Hunter and maybe a couple of other people. So maybe 5 or 6 people wrote all the lore in 2 years. I mean, basic game mechanics and computer programs and computers and office space and lights and all that stuff, which is beyond the $2 million that I project. That still leaves $2 million. Where's all this money going? So it was all good development, necessary and even appropriate for our team size, but slower than we would have liked. Unfortunately, we weren't able to find investors who understood that operating in a cash lean environment doesn't allow for growth and stifles velocity. Horseshit. I call shenanigans because there are so many people that put out alpha and beta games and early access games in this industry that even 2 years ago or 3 years ago, no, 2 years ago, even 2 years ago, there was enough people that were putting out alpha. I started my channel 5 years ago on alpha games and beta games and early access games. So that's not true. I mean, you said you weren't able to find investors. Maybe you weren't able, this is my opinion, you weren't able to find investors that would do what you wanted them to do. So they wanted a say. So what we did find were several investors who said, why are you talking with us? If you're confident crowdfunding will sustain you, then you don't need us. And if you're not confident it'll sustain you, we're not confident enough to invest. That sounds like sour grapes right there. And it sounds like someone they talked to that they told, well, we're not going to give you any say. Of course they're going to act like this. Why wouldn't they? For better or worse, we suspected that in order to get an investor, development was going to have to be far enough along that they simply couldn't refuse because we were so close to being done. So our goal for the last year or more has been to push forward as hard and as fast as we could, relying solely on crowdfunding until at least the alpha was complete. And up until now, we were successful. There's a year you just skipped. I want to know what happened in that 3rd year. But to our great sadness, with the failure of Settlers of Elyria and 5 long months of only limited crowdfunding revenue coming in, Soulbound Studios has officially run out of money. If you still do the math and you double it, we're talking $4 million in salary and $4 million in production costs, and then there's still $1 million missing because it's been $9 million plus, and you kept taking money all the way up until you made this post. Last night I was forced to do something I never thought I'd do. I closed the online store, put the SEO or SOE map back into read-only mode, and laid off all the employees. Now, like I said, I want to see the books. Guarantee you 100% everybody got a year's salary. Everyone did. No one is going without money. I guarantee you that no one's going hungry. No one's not going to be able to pay their bills. They were given a golden parachute that was on our dime. But once again, I also want to reiterate, I want to see the books because I do not know. I want to see the numbers, the proper numbers. And of course, anything that we see will not be the right numbers because you will always fix the numbers before you show the public, because that's how business is done. It's all done. It's done dishonestly when something like this happens, unless a judge forces you to show the proper paperwork. Before taking the store down and laying off all the employees, I had a long conversation with Vi and Snipe Hunter. We considered long and hard about launching the Kickstarter anniversary early this year and being open with the community about our need for additional funding. We were pretty confident that if we made all of our previous promo items available on sale to the store and were transparent about our needs, the community would rally behind us, pledging more support. We absolutely would 100%. Because you know what? I loved the idea of this game. Everyone that wanted to play this game loved the idea of the game. I would have bought some things. If you would have been honest and said so, even with this outbreak, I would have given you money. Funny thing is, the American public are getting a stimulus check, and that probably would have given us enough incentive, just a little bit of extra cash flow, that we would have given you even more than we probably would have in the first place. And also another thing is, they were talking about the stimulus package when he made this post. That makes absolute zero sense. It makes no sense whatsoever, which makes me believe that this was planned ahead of time. That might have been enough to sustain us until we could get to Alpha 1 and land some investors, but we decided not to. Right, you decided not to because you didn't want to develop it anymore. You just decided that if we cut bait now, we can line our pockets. I really feel that. This is my belief, and that's really got my hackles up. But if I want to keep an even keel here, I have to tone this back. So allow me to do that for just a moment, and I'll let you tell me what you think in the comment section below. Now he says, while we had no doubt that our backers would come to our aid, we're living in a volatile world in our world's history, or period in our world's history, which is true. With unprecedented changes to society caused by the outbreak, and with economies beginning to suffer all around the world, I made the decision not to try to get additional crowdfunding. I knew doing so would mean to have to close the studio, but it was the right thing to do, and I'd rather people spend their money on games they can play now. Wait, you'd rather they spend their money on games they can play now? That means that you believe they have money. Or better yet, food and shelter. Now that's a little bit more reasonable. Rather than on the continued development of Chronicles of Elyria. You just don't want to develop the game anymore. I really don't feel like you do, which goes back to you left a letter on my pillow instead of looking me in the eye. Be a man, Caspian. You're a coward. So with no additional funding, the Chronicles will now descend into what is referred to in the monomyth or the hero's journey as the abyss or the ordeal. It's a period of the story where the protagonist reaches the lowest point, often marked by a figurative or even a literal death, allowing them to travel into the underworld. And so, for the time being, Chronicles of Elyria heads into the darkness. Yeah, dude, it's the end of the second act. I get it. If you guys don't know how books and movies how stories are made, there's a first, second, and third act. And the second act is when things look the darkest, like you can never overcome, the hero can never overcome it. And then in the third act, they overcome it and they find the resolution in their story arc. Metamorphosis and atonement. Now, how dare you put the word atonement here? So is this the end of Elyria then? The answer is, I hope not. That's yes, ladies and gentlemen. That's a parent telling a child, I'll think about it, when they have no intention whatsoever of doing what you ask them. Continuing on with the hero's journey, the stage, and he follows it up with this. Continuing on with the hero's journey, the stage right after the ordeal or the abyss is the metamorphosis or atonement. It's the period of the story where having to transform themselves in order to make it out of the abyss, the hero, let me go ahead and highlight this, the hero becomes something better than they were before. Leaving the darkness behind, they emerge into the light, atone for their failures, and move forward into the real growth point of the story. All right, give me a video. apologizing for closing the game, and show me the books, the real books. That will allow me to believe that you're leaving the darkness behind, that you're emerging into the light, that you're atoning for your failures, and you're trying to move forward. That's what that'll show me. That's what I want to see. But in all honesty, ladies and gentlemen, we will never see that, you see. We will never see that because, and I don't think con man is too strong of a word, but go ahead and look up what makes a con man or how con artists work and look up pyramid scheme and apply it to this game. And you make your own decision. That's all I'm going to say. In spite of the fact that I had to lay off all the employees, many of them communicated that they approved of the current trajectory of building the Alpha 2 mechanic into something playable, something like Kingdoms of Elyria. Many of them, in their relentless passion, volunteered to continue working on it in their spare time. And we all agreed that there's still a ton of unexplored lore in the different religions of Elyria, and there's still more stories to tell of the different tribes. Yeah, but the written lore doesn't do anything. You're not writing a novel, you're making a video game, Caspian. Nobody here at the studio is really willing to let go of the world we created. And mind you, and that's great. And I think that's true. I really do. And granted, I mean, any good video game has a novel behind it because they had to write the lore. I get it. There is no good video game without a good story. I try to play something that has, it has an idea. You have to, what's this game about? What's it really about? And the more depth there is, the more enriched the story is to play the game, because then you can immerse yourself in the character. And if you wanted to write a novel, you should have written the series, the Chronicles of Elyria, which I think might be what you wanted to do in the first place. You wanted to write a book. You wanted to create a world. So maybe you've done that. And you know what? If Chronicles of Elyria, the series, comes out, I'm going to buy each and every one of them just so I can put them in a burn barrel and light them on fire. He says, to date, there are 100 Discord servers out there. We believe that there's still a future for Elyria. We're just not sure what shape or form it will take. And when it'll be available. But we believe in the vision. For some of us, the journey continues. I've had bosses, when they go to let you go, they say, we have to let you go now, but I really, really, truly wish you the best. And I really think you have a bright future, but it's just not a good fit. This is exactly what that feels like to me. And finally, he says, back in November of 2014, before I even had images on the COE website, when it was just a note written in black and white text, I posted a dev journal that referred to Chronicles of Elyria as a journey of 1,000 miles. It has indeed been a journey of 1,000 miles, but I hope it's also been a journey with 1,000 faces, and this hasn't been the end of the journey. Just a transformation into something that may be something even better. To that end, I plan to leave the forums and Discord open so that the communities that have been built over time can remain, because if you didn't, they would riot. I don't know if or even when Elyria will resurface. That means it won't, but when it does. I don't know even if or when, but when it does. I don't know, but when it does, you'll all be the first to know. What about you'll all be the first to play it? From myself, Suzu, Vi, Snipe Hunter, Serpentis, and the rest of the Soulbound team, thank you for your love and support. Thank you for your love and support. We'll see you around. Okay? We'll see you around, guys. We'll see you around. Thank you for all your love and support and money. We'll see you around. Pledge to the continued development of the Soulbound engine and the Chronicles of Elyria Caspian. Pledge to the continued development of the Soulbound engine and the Chronicles of Elyria. Now, there was another game not too long ago that did exactly this. No Man's Sky. And everybody wanted to lynch those mothers. The one big difference between No Man's Sky and Chronicles of Elyria is No Man's Sky actually delivered something into our hands and then continued to build on it until it became something that they can be proud of and that people want to play. They actually have a player base, and it's actually a decent game now. Caspian, I'm saying this to you right now. You need to bring and put something in our hands. I don't care what it is, and then build on it slowly and work on it little by little. Because don't tell me that you didn't line your pockets, because I know you did. Because at this point, something this big that was this much of a failure, there's not many that are going to hire any of you that were in management on this team. Which means the smart thing to do would be to line your pockets for at least 5 years so you'd have some capital to be able to figure out what your next thing is going to be. So at this point, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to leave it up to you. What do you think? Do you think it was bad management, or do you really think it was a con? I think I've said my piece. I think I've said enough. I probably said entirely too much, but I don't think I've said anything that'll get me in any legal trouble. However, speaking of legal trouble, once again, at the very end of this video, I want to mention to anyone who has the money that talk to your lawyer and see if you have even a leg to stand on, to even look at the books. Show them to the people. We want to know where all this money went. And in this day and age, someone needs to be held accountable. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I went ahead and I read what I felt was pertinent. I gave you my thoughts and my opinions, and strictly just my opinion. And once again, I want to say at the very end of this video, do not, I'll say it again, do not cause any or wish any ill will toward anyone at Soulbound Studios. They're all good people. Okay? I think in their heart of hearts, they are good people. I believe that. I do. I just want to end with that. And I don't believe that they're evil people. Okay? I believe it was badly managed. That's my takeaway. I simply think it was bad management. Although it does have the smell of a con. That doesn't make it a con, but it smells like a con. And I know that because I smell it, because I know it, because my father was a con artist, and I know a con when I smell a con, and this smells like a con. The only thing about a con is you don't really know it's a con until it's over. But I don't think it was a con. It smells like one, but I don't think it was intentional. I do think it was bad management, and I do think it was pride that led to the downfall of Chronicles of Elyria. And on that note, I'm going to go ahead and end this video, and I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all found it enlightening. I hope you found it informative. And like I said, this will be posted down below in the description so you can read it in its entirety. And I'm going to let you go. So as I always say, I am my usual me. You be your usual you, and we'll see you in the next thing that I do. Thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.